my skill as a medical intuitive was probably a natural extension of my whole life. I mean, I was educated by nuns and priests and until I was 29, for God's sake. How many people could say that and survive? Anyway, and in the world I came from, the spiritual side of life was so ordinary that the extraordinary became ordinary. I simply became very attuned, very conscious, if you will, of the way people were feeling, and of that I was picking up more than just the average highs or lows that you might pick up from a friend. I mean, you might say, you know, I think there was something wrong with Ginny today or whatever. But in my case, I was able to say, yeah, there's something wrong with Ginny. She's developing a bladder infection. But all of a sudden I thought, I can't even tell you how normal that was. I didn't sit around and say, how did I know that? What happened to me was I said, oh, that's why I've had this energy in me. It's taking this focus.
Carolyn Myss is one of the world's most renowned medical intuitives. She uses a form of second sight to perceive illnesses and their hidden causes. Through thousands of intuitive medical readings, Carolyn discovered that in addition to our physical anatomy, each of us also possesses an energy anatomy, a system of interconnected energy centers, invisible to the eye, but critical to the formation of disease and the process of healing. And now, Carolyn Myss.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. And applaud you too. Thank you all for being here. Through the years, I've changed a great deal as a teacher. I think most teachers do. And the reason I have is because my work and my research has taken me down a different path. My work used to be medical intuitive readings on people. And what happened was this incident. And what I would do is I would do these workshops where I would have 60 or 70 people, and I would do a reading on every single person in that workshop. I would leave there in a bucket of sweat, but everybody got their reading. And one day I was doing a workshop, and I sat next to this woman and I said, so what can I do for you? And she sat there like this, and she looked at me and said, I don't know. I paid my money, you tell me. Okay, so being the calm person I am, I looked at her and said, you and I are going to sit here until I figure out some gracious way to deal with that remark. And this may take us a few years, so have your dinner sent in. All right, but what I realized in that moment was that I really didn't help people all that much by doing readings, but that the better way for me to serve people would be by teaching you how to evaluate your own energy, how to recognize when your energy was leaving your body and what the significance of that is, how to recognize when some kind of energy was entering your body, how to know in that instant moment that, whoops, I'm having a power leak, and spot the target that it's leading to. And then what to do about it. I mean, it's not good enough to say, I'm screaming in the middle of the street, I'm leaking, I'm leaking. You know, that's not going to help you. All right, but what do you do about that once that starts, and how to unplug your energy? So I hope that you'll join me today, and as I teach you the skills I've learned, as I present to you the human energy system as I've learned to work with it. It's the best tool I have to give you. So the next thing people are usually interested in is, how did I become a medical intuitive? You know, I'm very boring in this category of my story. I wish I had a story to tell you like I had an apparition, or, you know, I had some kind of unusual encounter with an ET, but that's not the truth. The truth is, it was the most natural evolution in my own life. I studied theology. I was educated by nunsies. I love nunsies. And, you know, for nuns, the extraordinary is the ordinary. Okay? I mean, that's just the way it is. And so I had that kind of background. And so when I began to have the insight that I was intuitive and that it was taking the focus as a medical intuitive, meaning that the kind of data I received from people was the information that told me about where they were losing their spirit, their energy, to issues in their life that resulted consequently in the breakdown of their body. That's what I learned, and how to work with that. Then I knew I had a very upsetting moment, because most people will report or share with you that when they emerge into their intuitive abilities, it scared them. That's not what scared me. No. Because of my background around the nuns, what scared me is that I knew that when people had this kind of ability, they were generally shuffled off to the monastery. That's what scared me. I didn't like the thought of where the rest of my life could lead me, but fortunately for me, it didn't go that direction. So let's get into this. Your human body, your energy body, the way I like to teach it is in terms of giving you the model that you have circuits coming in through the top of your head. And we probably do, okay? And as the circuits come into your head, it of course fills your entire body, helps in the development of cells, helps in the maintenance of your life. And what I really believe that if we could imagine that I was your angel coach and you hadn't yet incarnated, and I'm going to tell you what life on the planet Earth is about. I wonder if we could find the angelic Prozac. But anyway, what I would tell you is, as you prepare for incarnation, what is the purpose? Why are you going down there? This is the reason. You're going down to learn the wise distribution of this energy. Because as you plug your energy into anything, what you give that energy to becomes an investment in the process of life. And that investment gives returns to you and returns to the whole of life. Think of it like investing money. And that every day you're given $100 worth of energy to spend in your life. And that as you invest it, either you're going to invest it in positive circumstances, positive relationships, positive thoughts that will bring high interest returns to your system, or you're going to make investments in which you start building a debt. And eventually the $100 worth of energy that you get every day is not going to be enough to finance your debts. You've got to take a loan. Where are you going to get that loan? You're going to get it from your cell tissue. Or you're going to get it from other people's energy. You develop a kind of a parasitical sense where you need to be around people's energy in a way that's beyond even your consciousness. You don't know why you need this person. You don't know why you need this addiction. But it comes from the fact that you're literally grasping for energy because you're running out. And then at some point, that actually becomes the formation of an illness. So I want you to keep this in your mind, and I also want to point out, as I continue with this, and think of your own energy circuits, because as I discuss and list the many ways you can lose your energy, take note, and don't sit there and say, oh, that's not me. Of course, I would do that, but I don't want you to do that. Okay. What's it look like when your energy leaks? Look at this image. You have energy coming into the top of your head. And when I did a reading on somebody, when I still do them, I use this image. I literally use like a timeline that goes back to the sense of your birth, and then I get a sense of where you're leaking energy and why. One of the favorite places people like to leak their energy is into their childhood. That's very popular. So you send your energy back to years and years ago, into some degree of parental criticism. And what you decide unconsciously, and this is true, is what percentage of your energy goes in that direction. Now I'm going to tell you something. This is absolutely real. And once you start noticing this in yourself, you're really going to be surprised. When you get up in the morning and you run off to the shower and you're showering and you're dressing, I'm telling you something. While you're doing that, you are going through an energy distribution phase. And you're preparing for that day. And if you're holding on to a lot of this historic part of yourself, you are literally taking your $100 worth of energy and saying, okay, give 20 bucks to my childhood, give 30 bucks to the end of that relationship, give 115 bucks to the way I left my last job. So by the time you're done, what do you have left is either you're in debt, or my handwriting's much better in different circumstances. Either you're in debt, or you've begun the borrowing of energy from your physical tissue, or you're left with somewhere between 20 to $2 to run your life today. Today. And I want to point out what this means in actually practical terms. Just imagine that you have a marvelous thought, an inspiration. Like, here's your angel saying, listen to me. It's time for you to leave here and start a marvelous new creative job. Imagine that. And you hear the inspiration, because hearing does not require a lot of energy. What requires the energy is action. So you take this inspiration and you think, oh, this is good. And then your angel is sitting next to you and saying, look, Toots, if you really want this idea to become a powerful part of your life, then you better get some of the energy from your past, because this is going to cost energy. I need $80 worth of your energy per day to make this incarnate. And if you're running into high debt, the only thing you'll ever do with that energy, the only thing you'll ever do with that thought, is wish you could do something with it, and then regret that you never did. Oh, I'd like you to work, as I talk about your energy system today, I'd like you to have the same definition of healing in mind, and you could sort of fill in the blanks at your leisure. But healing is the process of returning these energy circuits into your body. You can call that recalling your spirit, put it in any language you want, but essentially what you're doing is you're unplugging your precious gift of energy, and you're returning it back into your body. Have you ever truly forgiven anybody? It's not a pleasant thing to do, but I mean, it is a necessity. Or have you ever finally let go of something? What happens is you actually feel unbelievably ecstatic. You feel like this, wow, I feel light. How many times have you said it or heard someone say, I just feel so light after that experience? You are actually not kidding yourself. You are lighter. This makes you lighter. It makes you more literally brings energy into your system. You are lighter. That's not just a sweet phrase we've created. This is the real thing. I had a real interesting history with the idea of healing. You know, I started getting involved with people and what made people ill around 1983, something like that. And during that time, because we were so influenced by the thought that we create our own reality, people would come to my workshops, and they would absolutely be filled almost with a pride that they had recognized that they created their own reality, and therefore they created this illness. And that somehow through the ritual of standing up and saying, I know I'm responsible for this, and I have, cancer, or I have whatever illness, that by taking that responsibility meant sort of proclaiming the punitive end of it. And at the same time, the holistic end was giving us the information that if you had the right herbs and you ate tofu and you stood on your head and you did these things, that you were going to heal. It was inevitable. 1988 rolls around, and no matter what country I was in, it was phenomenal. The audience had shifted. It was more of this attitude. Okay, I've tried, look at this list, acupuncture, herbs, yoga, everything. By the way, I love all those things, but we have to talk about what it means to be in present time in order for these energetic tools to take flight, okay? You can't have your energy living in your life mausoleum and expect these energy tools to do their job. So what I realized is we should be healing a little bit more. And so now people were wondering, why am I not healing? So I started to look at that question. And I realized that we're scared, pun intended, to death of healing. It's as frightening to us. It's about as frightening as forgiveness, if not the same. And the reason is because healing, these are the reasons. Number one, we've learned to use healing in a real socially powerful way. We form wound mates with healing. We do this. You know, you meet somebody in here, you go through the basic questions. Where are you from? I'm from Chicago, I'm from Los Angeles. So what do? You follow the chakras. It'll go just in the order. Here, first chakra, you're where you're born. Then you go up to the second, which is, so what do you do for a living? Well, so you say, I paint houses and I paint pictures. Isn't that interesting? Got that in common. Then you go up to the third chakra, which is now a little more personal, but not real personal. Here's the question. Are you a vegetarian? Oh, no, I do this. Okay, so now you know all you need to know about someone here, but that's no longer bonding. It used to be the way we bonded, not anymore. Now, if you really want to bond with someone, you've got to share a wound. But now be careful about this, because you don't want to overwhelm them with all your wounds. You got to get a woundette, okay? So what you do is you pull out a small wound. You say something like, you know, when I was a child, I never got any donuts from my mother. Now, if you want to bond with that person, what you do is you look them straight in the eye, and you keep your thinking on donuts. I got to find a donut-sized wound. And you send your consciousness down to your first chakra file. Here, give me a donut, quick, quick, quick. And you come back up and you say, you never got donuts? I never got cupcakes. And right after that, the bond's established. And what's so fascinating is there's an archetypal union that takes place. Without you saying anything or the other person saying anything, you already understand that these are the rules. If I call you up and I say to you, I am having a donut flashback, you know automatically that you have to drop whatever you're doing and run and support me. Why, I ask you, would I want to give up that kind of security if that's what healing was all about? I mean, I took a real good look at this, and I want to share these perceptions with you and all the others that I've gained in this in my years working as a medical intuitive and working in these groups. And I hope that this information will become a tool for you that you can take from here and from now on use for the rest of your life, so that you can become very conscious of when you're losing power, to whom you're losing power, or to what, how much power you're putting into an attitude. I mean, I had the experience the other day where someone came up to me and said that she had a reading by someone, and this person told her that this woman is a detective, and that this person told her that this job was dangerous for her because she saw her getting shot. Now, I talked to her and I said, are you going to finance that idea or not? Now, if we really knew what it was to develop high voltage willpower, we'd actually have the quality of will that says, as you feel your circuit leaving your body and breathing its prana into this thought, okay? And I want you to think of thoughts like a flat balloon that you literally blow up, that it attached to your energy. You could look at your circuit of energy and say, get back here and leave that alone. But now, our willpower is at the stage in our evolution, not for everybody, but for most of us, where we have become we're so unaccustomed to really developing will, that when your energy leaves your body and you say, you get back here, your energy circuits turn around and say, you talking to me? Because I'm on my own, you know? And so that's what makes healing so difficult. That's what makes the return of health so difficult, because we need a lot of focus. We need a lot of consciousness to begin to say to your energy circuits, I said, get back here. You've been out long enough. I want you home for dinner. Let me introduce the chakra system to you. The chakra system is the way that the Eastern traditions have expressed the energy or illustrated the energy through the human body. According to the Hindu tradition, we have 7, what they would describe as wheels in our energy field. I use the term data bank. I do this because the way I work with these centers is that for me, each one, and I'll explain this to you as I go further and further through this workshop, but each one contains a certain type of information, very specific to areas of our own spiritual maturation. We mature through, think of it as stages of power, and those stages of power are completely aligned to the 7 chakras. Furthermore, I think, when you think of physical anatomy, it's an incredibly defined science. Every single cell has some kind of effect on the whole. Our energetic anatomy system is exactly as specific as is our physical anatomy. So much so that in a reading, I've long ago discovered that there are very, very specific patterns to the illnesses that we develop. If we're losing power, if we, for example, develop an illness in our pancreas, a pancreatic disorder from diabetes to pancreatic cancer, this is tracked to issues of the 3rd chakra that deal with responsibility. When people, and now this is responsibility in the extreme, when someone is struggling with feeling that they're responsible for everybody, or the opposite, where they want no responsibility for their lives. The organ in your body that gets stressed the most is your pancreas. Now I can go through almost every organ and show you what chakra center they relate to, but there will be a direct relationship, okay? And the other thing I want to add at this point is your tendency, as I proceed with the rest of the information, is to think if you have a heart illness, that it's simply and always located in the 4th chakra. It must be something in the 4th chakra. That's not the way you read these centers. You read them as an entire group. And what I've realized is that most illness develops from an energy loss below your waist, even a heart disorder. And the reason why it locates in your heart has to be merged with whatever level of physical stress is working with your body at the lower level. For example, you may have a relationship that had just caused you a lot of stress in your life, indeed a heartache. So now you have the combination of your 2nd chakra working with your 4th. And depending upon how that stress works out, that will depend on what organ of the body it will locate itself in, but I can fairly well assure you that it will either choose the heart to influence, or the blood, which is of course through the heart, or some organ in the 2nd chakra, the colon, the sexual organs, the lower back. But this is how that works together. You have to read this as a whole system and not just lock into one chakra and make the assumption that if I have a chronic sore throat, it's only and solely a 5th chakra issue. That is not so. So as we go through the rest of the chakras in this workshop, I want you to think that you are learning a whole system that you have to read with fluency rather than one at a time. Okay? And then there is the point that I want to bring into the, illustrate to you, and that's that as energy comes in through the top of your head and you make these, shall we say, investments of energy from your chakras into various parts of your life, you make investments that then come back into your body in the form of what we could call returns on your investments. Every single investment carries a return. So that I want you to think, image your body as going out into areas of your life. What kind? You have relationships, you have your environment, you can make an investment of 90% of your energy in something you want, a piece of jewelry, a house. I mean, I've seen people lose their health because they want a certain house. Can you imagine that? I mean, maybe it's just me, but I can't imagine that. But anyway, and whatever you invest in has to return. Think of it this way. It simply has to return more than you invested. You've got to earn interest on your investments. That's the way you think from now on. You've got to earn interest on it. If it doesn't pay back to you a positive interest, why would you invest? From now on, just think of yourself as an energetic banker. Why would you invest? And the consequence is, if your investment gets you into debt, you've got to take out a loan. You can either borrow from another person's energy system, which I can promise you is going to blow that friendship right out of the water, or you're going to take a loan from your cell tissues. And you're going to borrow on energy that's been stored in your body in the cell tissue, and you'll start pulling it out. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody who's had the experience of almost aging overnight. Have you ever seen that? Where someone has had such a stressful experience that within 3 or 4 months, they've aged 3 or 4 years. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. They've had so many experiences that have cost them at the max, shall we say, of their energy system, that they're taking out fast loans from their body, and their body consequently, and I want you to take this literally, ages faster. The more energy you keep in present time, the slower you age. The more energy you make in bad investments that return, that get you into, shall we say, energetic debt, the faster you age. And think of how logical that is. It drains. What if you start pulling the energy out of your cell tissue, your face? It's going to start sagging. Your body will start feeling fatigued. You don't have the same energy to keep the life force in you in the same way. Just use logic. Use the metaphor, the analogy, rather, that you are a banker, and that's all there's to it. And from now on, even if someone offers you a thought to invest in, here, just a thought to invest in. Here's a good thought. Here's a typical thought, like, don't you think the world is going to end as soon as we cross over the year 2000? Or some such popular thought in the marketplace these days. Now you have the option, am I going to finance that thought or am I not? You have choice. And you decide, I will not contribute 1 circuit of my energy into that thought. First of all, you've done the world a great service. But secondly, you've done yourself one as well, because you're not plugging your own energy system into a thought that can only bring back to you negativity and eventually cost you energy because it's not paying off the energy that you've loaned to that thought. What I tell people is, because it's so hard to kind of enter into the meditative state, start from your first chakra and work your way up. Follow the natural sequence of your energy instead of jumping here and deciding, I'm going to just pull it. It won't go that way. It'll never listen to you. Instead, you start with imaging what your first chakra would tell you, which is your tribe, your groundedness, about how pleasant your life would be if you weren't involved in the memory of that situation. And so you begin to visualize, not unplugging from it, but the kind of life you want right now. Just start then. It doesn't even have anything to do with that injury, wound, memory, relationship, just what you want today. And then work your way up to the second chakra, which is, what kind of relationships do I want today? How do I want to interact with people? How do I want to make my life different than the way it was? And don't go backwards. Don't even think about, don't do this within the context of that memory being in the center of it. All right? And then do it with your third chakra, which is, how would I feel? How do I really want to feel about myself? And start building up this stronger image of yourself. Now here again, that's not a small task, because the development of self-esteem or healthy relationships is very difficult. So you're only starting with creating a roadmap. In the meantime, what you do is you forbid yourself to discuss with anybody your past. You can't do it. I mean, this is what you can discuss, what you had for lunch. You can discuss safe past, but you cannot discuss wounded. You drop the wound language, all right? And that in itself is tremendously healing, because what you are actually doing more than anything else is you're breaking your word habit far more than withdrawing from the wound, believe it or not. You're breaking your word habit because you get up and unconsciously plug in the same audio tape. I'll never forgive that person for what he did to me or she did. It goes on and on. So if you consciously change your vocabulary and you meet somebody and they say, "How are you?" and you don't say, "Well, it's my childhood again. It's just been having dinner with me." And instead say, "I'm really fine. It's okay today. I put my shoes on the right feet." You'd be surprised the healing power these simple things are, because again, in terms of the divine paradox, it's the simple things that have the power. It's the mustard seed that moves your mountain. Nobody will make any effort by moving the mountain. That's how you unplug. You start doing things like this that look like you're not unplugging, but they really are. And then by the time you get to your mind, if you will, and you look backwards, you can't even see the person. One of the most wonderful things that ever happened to me was when I was 20 years old. And I was in a big trauma. I think it was because I broke a pencil. You know how big traumas are when you're 20. But I really was traumatized about something in college. And I had a dream, and it was probably more than a dream. But all of a sudden I found myself 20 years in the future. And I was 40 years old. I'd give my right arm to be 40 now. But anyways, I was 40 years old. And there was a teacher, a guide with me, who said, "All right, now look back at what's upsetting you." And I couldn't even see it. I said, "Well, I don't remember what it was." He said, "All right, now, with that attitude, go back there and deal with it." And I cannot tell you how liberating that experience was. I've used it ever since. Whenever I am that upset about something, I literally will leave the time zone. So instead of going backwards, I go this way. And I oftentimes tell people that another wonderful way of unplugging is to go visualize tomorrow and see if they really want to see that person again next week.